Yay!
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hi, everyone in the audience. Thank you so much for being here. Um, my name is Jenna. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the operations and programs manager here for the Glass Art Society. Thank you for being here for our April 2021 Glass Reflections conversation. I am super excited to be hosting these monthly conversations with artists, business owners, educators, enthusiasts, and I'm currently coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. And for those who may be new to this program, we use our platform and these conversations as really a place to explore how glass can be a vehicle for self-care. And we also love to shed light on just the resiliency of glass artists and all the amazing work that they do. So with that being said, we are joined today by multidisciplinary artist Dara Alper, and currently based in her hometown of Norfolk, Virginia. Alper began blowing glass at Tidewater Community College in 2012 at the age of 15. She received her BFA in glass from Kent State University in 2018 and has studied at Pilchuck as well as internationally at the University of Sutherland in England. Alper has also done the Pilchuck Murano residency in Italy, which sounds amazing, and a residency at Salem Artworks in New York. Alper recently finished a second studio assistantship at the Chrysler Museum Studio in Virginia and is currently working on several amazing projects, which we will discuss momentarily. So welcome, Dara. Thank you for being here. Is there anything else you would like to share about your background, maybe for folks here who aren't familiar with you or your work?
Yeah, so I guess I grew up here in Norfolk, Virginia. And then I moved away to go to Kent State to study glass, got my BFA, bought a one-way ticket to Scotland with my friends, hung out there for a while, and then came back, did a residency at Salem Artworks, and then decided to move back to my hometown, Norfolk, Virginia, to do the Chrysler assistantship and to be near my family again. And so now the assistantship is over. And I am getting my welding certificate from Tidewater Community College again. So sort of full circle there. So I'll have that certificate done in May. And I'm really excited. Starting in a couple weeks, I will be working with a local nonprofit, Little Truck of Tools, that just got started. So they're basically a pop-up creative studio that can drive around to different neighborhoods and areas and park there. And they're going to teach people how to use construction tools and creative uses like that. So I'm really excited. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be fabricating their pop-up unit. So,
oh, wow.
Big welding project.
Yeah, so when we spoke briefly before, you had mentioned that the Little Truck of Tools nonprofit. So I was curious about what you specifically would be doing with them. So it sounds like you'll actually be making some of these tools.
I'll be making the vehicle that will be driven around and parked, or it's a trailer. So I'll be it's got all these drawer pulls and pop-up things.
Awesome. That sounds, I think something I always find really interesting with artists is that there's always at least 3 or 4 different projects going on. And it sounds like with the welding certificate and like this new nonprofit, like those are all really great things to be a part of. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. So then circling back a little bit to glass, can you maybe tell us how you became interested in glass as a medium?
Yes. So when I just turned 15, and my mom was being really insistent that I needed to take a class at the community college, Tidewater Community College. And I was like, well, I don't really want to take a college class. I have enough on my plate being in high school as it is. But I looked through the catalog and I saw they had glass blowing. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty interesting. I'll take glass blowing. And then I pretty much immediately fell in love with the whole process. I love the teamwork and the collaboration and the way that glass blowing just invokes your whole body and your whole mind, and you have to be fully present to do it. And it seems like sometimes glass sort of picks up on your mood. If you're in a bad mood, you can't make your so,
interesting.
Yeah.
A sensitive medium. I like that.
Yes, very.
That's awesome. And from our speaker last month, Jeff talked a little bit about how art, specifically glass as a medium, can be a tool to use with all different audiences as like a therapeutic process. So it's interesting to hear that as well from you. It's kind of like being present and in your space.
Yeah, because when you're working with something that's over 2,000 degrees and responds to the movements of your body, you have to be very present with it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to touch a little bit. So you currently state that your work explores themes such as censorship, sex work, and gender bias, while simultaneously investigating the impact glass has on our social norms. So I'd be curious to hear if you can maybe harness in or focus in on what types of social norms you like to investigate, and then the impacts of that type of investigation.
Yeah, definitely. So whenever I work with glass, I like to sort of consider how has glass impacted our world as a whole. Like without glass, what would our world look like? I mean, you can start at a microscopic level, when wearing eyeglasses and windows, etc. But something I think about a lot is communication. Like right now, we're all communicating through a glass screen, and that's made possible through glass fiber optics. So that's something I think about, which I explored in my recent piece, Disconnect. It's the one you guys posted a picture of on the Instagram the other day. Yeah. So it's basically two figures, two busts that are sort of made out of these fiber optic like lines, and they're faced just a little bit away from each other, and they're each looking at a neon phone screen. So I guess I read a little bit of the artist statement from it, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So it reads, "We're viewing an unfamiliar world through the glass of our phone screens with information relayed to us through glass fiber optics. We are individually and collectively coming to terms with the loss of physical community resulting from the pandemic. Many fill this void with digital socialization. This technological era, allowing us to connect instantly to millions of people, is being rapidly normalized. So I'm just sort of investigating how glass has the power to bring us together, but also be very isolating."
Yes, 100%. And I think that's definitely a theme that will continue to be explored by artists. But like, how interesting of a time right now? Because I mean, I guess maybe for the past couple of years, you know, iPhones have been here for a while, and there's been an argument of in person versus virtual. But now with the pandemic as like this whole other lens, what an interesting time to maybe like reframe that whole conversation.
Yeah. And then I guess in regards to the rest of that question that you asked, as far as exploring censorship and sex work and gender bias, I guess I'll speak on a work that I made when I was doing the residency at Salem Artworks, which was titled Dirty Money.
Yes, we definitely wanted to touch on that, but I was going to wait to see if
okay, I can wait to speak on that if you'd like.
No, go for it.
Okay, all right, so I'll just give everybody a little bit of a visual. It was this installation in this old kind of open air barn, and there was a low, wide pedestal that sort of resembled a stage. And there was a cast bronze pleaser heel, which was actually cast from one of mine. And it was surrounded by these metal dollars. They looked like dollars, but they were embossed with different quotes from sex workers. And I invited the audience to take $1, and if they wanted in exchange, they could leave $1 that they wrote on, like an actual dollar that they wrote on sex work is work. And then I took these dollars and I put them in different tip jars around different places and just kind of reintroduced them into circulation.
Very interesting. Wow.
And then on the walls, there was lots of like paddles and whips and these real dollars that I dipped into tool dip. And I sort of did that as sort of a message on censorship, but also to explore the kind of gray, legal, illegal area that sex work often exists in. Because you could remove the rubber and then it wouldn't technically be defacing the dollar. But, you know, it's illegal to deface money, so.
Interesting, because I had gone on your website, which everyone check out the website. There's amazing work on there. And I was looking at through the photos of everything that you just talked about with the dirty money piece. And it's always interesting to hear a little bit more of the context and like the intention behind those. Especially, I didn't realize that there was actually, they had written on the pieces themselves. That's really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. And then I would be curious to hear if with recent events that have happened, especially in Atlanta, have you been exploring that theme anymore, or has it resurfaced as something you would like to express, like in one of your glass or welding pieces?
I feel like that is something I'm still processing through, and it sort of takes a while of processing before I'll make art about it. So maybe, yeah, in the future, but it's too recent still.
That is 100% fair. I hear you. So with that being said, of kind of exploring your work, and I think it's really interesting how you have participatory pieces, like a little bit what you were talking about with sex work, and then, or sorry, dirty money. That's what the piece is actually called. These participatory works, and then you have object-based works. So I would kind of like to explore both of those with you for a moment. So looking at one of your other participatory pieces, Catharsis Cart, I found really intriguing, and this was just from my exploration on your website. So could you maybe like visually describe what that piece is for those who are joining?
Yes, so Catharsis Cart was a project I did several years ago, and I built this sort of mobile cart that had bright circus colors on it, said Catharsis Cart, and then inside there was a lot of blown glass spheres, and I invited people to write down something or someone they'd like to forgive or forget, and then they got to throw that sphere into the cart and smash it. So catharsis, if anyone's not familiar with that term, is the process of releasing emotion, which thereby provides relief from that emotion. So I think that the act of smashing glass is very cathartic.
Yeah, when I saw the photos, like, oh, that would be so great right now, especially, you know, through the lens of everything that's been going on, both pandemic, public health, and then social, racial justice. Like, what a great type of participatory piece. And that being said, I would be curious to hear, do you think you'll be able to do that piece again in like a public setting? Because it happened in Ohio. So is that on your idea generator brain at all?
Yeah, I really, really, really want to bring this piece back. And I think it could be a lot of fun for people and maybe a little bit healing in some ways. Just kind of waiting until it's safe to do participatory work again.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely planning to bring that back.
Yeah, just like the smashing of glass is just such a intriguing way to engage with an artwork. And I would also be curious from maybe people who you had done this in person with, of what their experience like was of, oh, I'm actually breaking glass, where as in, you know, art settings, people are always scared to get too close to a piece, or, you know, just like totally flipping the dynamic of how to engage with an artwork.
Yeah, really like embracing the fragility of it.
Yeah, so interesting. Then going to some of your object-based work, I would love to explore the concept of intimacy and vulnerability of the body through glass. And you do this through a couple of your pieces, such as Memory of Your Touch and then Fragile Armor. So could you maybe, whichever one you would like to talk about first, in pause. I'm just excited. So all the words are coming to my brain. So in both of these works, you use your own body in the process. So I'd love to hear what that was like and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as intimacy goes, I think that we're all sort of a collection of experiences and relationships that we've had up until this moment that have all left some kind of mark on us. And I'm interested in making those marks, which are invisible, to be visible. So I've done this through a variety of ways. So Memory of Your Touch was kind of a predecessor to a larger installation that I did.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I can speak on that installation. Yeah,
Sure.
So the installation was called Liminal Space. And liminal is kind of the way between two ways of being. And so in that work, I made lots of molds off of my torso. And I had somebody kind of like press their hands into me while that was happening. And I preserved those marks so that I could make those invisible marks that you feel when someone touches you visible. And I guess some of the marks that people leave on you can be positive, and sometimes they can be sort of unwanted or a little bit darker. So just kind of exploring the dichotomy between those two. And then what was the other one? Fragile Armor was, yes, that was a piece I made on the torch. It was networked, so which is that, if you've seen kind of like spidery looking thin glass connected to each other, that's what it was. So I networked a piece and then I slumped it to fit onto my back. And I sort of did it in a way that mirrored the way that veins look.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was thinking of making something that is generally kind of hidden and invisible, again, visible to the eye. So it's not really an armor, it's more exposing and making vulnerable.
So interesting, like using your own, I mean, as we kind of talked about earlier, with the process of glass art is a full like body experience, but then you're taking that to like a whole other level, which is super interesting. So thank you for sharing some of your like process and what those pieces meant to you. I would also be interested in hearing, does any type of research or any type of inspiration come to you when you're planning or processing what these pieces will look like?
Research. Usually I think I'll hear an interesting phrase or like catharsis or something like that and just kind of fall down a Google rabbit hole.
Google.
That.
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as I'm making, it's sort of, I make the piece and I'm thinking about an idea, and then the piece will be done and I'll look at it and I realize it's saying something maybe different or something a little bit different than what I had been thinking of. So it's not always completely planned out ahead of time. It kind of is a back and forth as I'm creating.
Interesting. Yeah. So many artists, and one thing I also really love about these interviews is just being able to hear the artistic process for everyone, because some people will, read a bunch of books or articles and will just go out into the world and experience things, and that's what draws their inspiration.
Yeah. I think I was heavily influenced by my undergraduate professor, Davini Banks. His classic phrase is, "The work is the work." So he was always like, stop just thinking about it, stop planning, just start making the work and it will happen. So I kind of have internalized that.
Nice. Hopefully he's here somewhere and heard that. If not, he's on one of the GAS board committees actually for programs. And so make him listen.
Awesome. Yep.
What a community the GLAS community is. Great. So then I also just being conscious words, being aware of time. I also wanted to make sure we touch base on you as an artist and a human. What do you do to take care of yourself, and what does a sustainable practice mean to you in regards to well-being?
Yeah, definitely important these days. I think as an artist, it's really easy to get hung up on making work that's perfect for your portfolio or work that will sell, because, gotta make a living, gotta make that money. But I always try to find some time now and again to make work. I don't show it to anybody. It's not like anything great, but it's just the act of creating is really fun and also really healing to just bring something into the world that is new and beautiful. So I always try to make something now and again that is just for me.
I like that. Like your own little gallery. I'm going to call it a little gallery of sorts of like your own works. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I also try to be really gentle with myself for not being as productive or creative as I think I should be during the pandemic, because it's really easy looking at social media and stuff to think that everybody is having their most creative burst of their life, but
yeah, completely.
It's not like that. So when I get kind of hard on myself about that sometimes. So I just say, no, like, it's okay. Just trying to deal with the world.
Yeah. Thank you for that honesty. Speaking of the world, so I'm curious, like with the current pandemic that's still ongoing, has this type of healing process for your self-care practices shifted or changed at all?
I have to be a lot more conscious of it, I think, because pre-pandemic times, I could just be so busy all the time that I wouldn't have to really think about the self-care part of it. But now there's a lot more free time. So I have to think about it more. And there's just a lot more to deal with all the time. So yeah.
Awesome. So then, kind of with that in mind, I wanted to look at a self-care practice maybe that we could share with those that are here live or for later when people watch the recording. So is there something that you would like to share or model that you think would benefit glass artists?
Yeah, I try to do a lot of stretching because being a maker, especially a glass blower or glass maker, is really hard on your body. So I do a lot of like hands and wrist stretches before I go to bed, and usually when I wake up in the morning.
Oh, nice.
Maybe we can do some, and
maybe
everybody you can follow along if you want to.
Let's do it. Okay.
Make sure I can get my hands in here. So of course, very simple one, just pulling your fingers back towards your wrist. And then
you usually try to keep your elbows reasonably straight or maybe bent a little bit. Do you think it makes a difference?
I usually keep them straight, but I'm not a professional, so take it with a grain of salt. So I do that on the sides. And then this next one I actually learned from my welding instructor, and it helps a lot. But you make a fist, and then grab your fist and pull it back towards your arm.
Oh, that feels interesting.
Yeah.
Like my wrist.
Yeah, and it stretches out your forearm a lot too. And then my favorite one, kind of for shoulders, is take your right arm and cross it over your left arm, and then wherever you can reach, if you can grab your wrist or your hand, or if you just kind of cross it like that, that's fine. But keep your elbows at a 90-degree angle, and you kind of want to push them out and up a little bit.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, and like right in between your shoulder blades should be pretty intense. And then you can do it on the other side.
And I was just going to say, I can't do one thing on one side and then not on the other. It feels so balanced.
Gotta be balanced.
So then you do all three of those every morning and evening, you said?
Yeah, and the day. I have some hand and wrist problems from glass and welding, so
that's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
But glad to hear, at least for those maybe who are newer to the scene or don't spend as much time in the shop, maybe these will help you. And
yes, good preventative things. Don't get carpal tunnel like me.
Ugh, so unfortunate. So then, as another kind of opportunity to engage with folks that are here with us, does anyone have a question that they would like to ask Dara? Well, we have her. Oh, thanks for all the little hearts. Love seeing that. Give people a second to ruminate. There was a lot of information. If no one has a question, I definitely have a bunch of other questions. So I'll go ahead and ask, and if something comes up, we'll pause. So kind of going back towards your written artistic statement, there was something I kind of wanted to read here and get your thoughts on, because this could have been written yesterday or a month ago, and things change constantly. So you said that my artwork focuses on intimacy, on how intimacy informs identity. In my participatory works, I've explored art as a means to facilitate connections between others and provide cathartic experiences for individuals. In my object-based works, I explore intimacy visually by documenting marks left on the skin from interactions between people. These marks function as a record and metaphor for the lasting changes we cause in each other and highlight how intimacy influence how we define self. And we talked about kind of that intimacy and that the marks left on skin from interactions, but I'm curious to hear from you that how we identify self and how maybe through the lens of this past year, how that might have changed for you.
Yeah, that is a good question. So how intimacy informs your identity and how that's changed this past year? Yeah, so I guess the way intimacy informs identity, when you think of yourself, I guess if you think of yourself through the eyes of somebody else, that's that coming into play right there. Or think of yourself through an interaction you had with somebody, that's that again coming into play right there. And yeah, with COVID, a lot of those relationships that I've had before were maybe ubiquitous. They were just there all the time. I could hug my friends, I could hug my family, whatever, don't think about it, handshake, high five, nothing, didn't think about it. But then when those things sort of become dangerous and you have to think about them all the time, I don't think that we've really come to terms yet with how that is changing our identities, because it's still happening every day.
Right.
So maybe if you ask me that question in a year or two, I'll have more of an answer. But I guess all I can say is now is that it is changing. And I don't really know how that's going, but it's going. Yeah.
I'm drawn to questions that you don't necessarily, there's not a definitive answer. It's something that can constantly, be reimagined or looked at from a different angle.
Right.
But a question that is a little bit more direct, someone has asked, when are you coming back to Kent?
I don't know. I should come back soon, though. I would love to come back.
And then we have another question from someone. As someone who has participated in multiple residencies, can you elaborate on those experiences and how they have shaped your practice as an artist? Great question.
Yeah. So I've done 2 residencies and the Chrysler assistantship. So the first residency I did was the technically first year, but kind of the second year of the Pilchuck Murano residency. And so they selected 6 of us. We went over to Murano, which was just amazing.
One day I want to go there.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. And we got split into groups of 2, and we had 2 weeks to design and create a new imagined chandelier. And there was a lot of shops that they were collaborating with. The group is Autonoma. There was a lot of shops in Murano they were collaborating with, so we could kind of use their skills to help them create our pieces. So I ended up working with Lorenzo Passi, who is actually a Murano glassblower. Somebody dropped out last minute, and so he filled in. And he had welded together all of these pieces of fences, metal fences, and we blew a giant glass bubble inside of it, and then I filmed a bunch of hands of the glass blowers and tools and the canals, and we projected that inside to be kind of the light source.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I mean, that experience was just probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. And then the SAW residency, whenever that opens back up, everybody should apply for it. You get lots of glass access, and you work for them however many hours a week, and in return you get room, board, and studio access, and you get to live on a farm and be outside 95% of the time and swim in a lake, and it's great. And then the Chrysler assistantship, I could not recommend enough for emerging artists who are trying to get some professional development. So you're out of school or you're starting your career, but what does that look like? And that program provides a lot of opportunities to explore ways that artists there are living that reality every day. And you get to learn how to do taxes for artists and stuff. So stuff that you don't really learn in school that I think you should.
That's awesome. Glad to hear. So hopefully that answered your question. If you would like any other info, you can either ask another question or follow up afterwards. But someone else has a question. Do you plan on working with Alex Page again?
Yes, Alex Page is my soul sister. She's my best friend. And we have a collaborative practice together, making these weird baby doll metal glass pieces together.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah. If you look up BAGALS.tripping, Big Al's Tripping, it's sort of a montage of our time and work together. So
very cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into that afterwards.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, then in our last few moments, I just want to offer up anyone else the opportunity to ask a question to our special guest this month. That was a nice comment. Awesome. Well, Dara, is there anything else you would like to share with folks who are here live or for those who watch the recording later on?
Feel free to message me at any time with whatever. I like to talk to people, so let's chat.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. This program will be uploaded to the GAS platform soon, including the website and our YouTube channel. There's a specific playlist just for Glass Reflections interviews, and we'll be sure to include your information in that. Thank you all for joining us in the audience today, and hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.